Good evening, bonsoir. I'm going to call the meeting to order. So I will start with the Indigenous land acknowledgement. I'd like to begin the meeting by acknowledging that we are in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in the Robinson-Huron Treaty area and wish to recognize the neighboring community of Doki's First Nation. While we meet today, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. So I need the adoption of the minute. I need a mover and a seconder, Dave and Will. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Delegations, we have Roxanne, who is here to do a presentation of the 2022 annual financial report by Baker Tilly. So Roxanne, if you want to join us on the podium.
Perfect. So good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's well. So I'm here tonight for those who don't know me, my name is Roxanne Gervais. I'm a partner with Baker Tilly, and my team and I have performed the audit of the municipality of French River over the course of the last month or so. We've been working on getting ready for tonight. So we have prepared the draft financial statements that you're seeing on screen. I will go through them, not necessarily line by line, but in just a high level review of the information. And then if there are any questions, I believe between myself and the treasurer will be able to answer if there's any type of questions. So if you can scroll, Melanie, to the independent auditors report. Perfect. So again, this year we are providing a clean audit opinion with regards to the municipalities. So without going through the whole report, the whole 3 pages, I'll just focus my attention on the first 2 paragraphs, which is the opinion section. So we have audited the consolidated financial statement of the corporation and the municipality of French River, which comprised the consolidated statement of financial position as at December 31st, 22. And the consolidated financial statements of operations and accumulated surplus, cash flows, and change in net financial assets for the year then ended, and notes to the consolidated statements, including a summary of the significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the accompanying consolidated statements present fairly in all material respects the consolidated financial position of the corporation and municipality of French River as at December 31st, 2022. And its results of its consolidated operations and consolidated cash flows for the year ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. The rest of the audit report does go through what our basis of opinion that we have done our work in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. It also goes through what the responsibilities of management and those charged with governance are, as well as what our responsibilities as auditors is concerned with regards to the audit of these consolidated financial statements. The statements are dated today in anticipation that they would be approved at this meeting. So if we can go to page 1, which is the consolidated statement of financial position. So essentially, this is a snapshot of the municipality at December 31st, 22, concerning its financial assets, liabilities, and non-financial assets. So in financial assets at December 31st, we had a total of 8.6 million, comprised especially of cash of 4 million, cash heritage center of 1,412. We had some taxes receivable of 579. Accounts receivable, federal was 292,000, provincial 43, and other 310. There's term deposits of 3.2 million, note receivable of 24,000, and then inventory held for resale of 40,000. Our liabilities is a total of 6.8 million. comprised of accounts payable and accrued liabilities of $823,000. There's an accounts payable for the Heritage Center of $1,412, other current liabilities of $5,600. We had deferred revenue of $569,000, deferred revenue for obligatory reserve funds for $1,197,000, accrued interest of $13,000, municipal debt of $3,009,000, and then landfill closure and post-closure liability of $1.2 million. Our net resulting in a net financial assets of $1,779,000. Our non-financial assets is our tangible capital assets of $18.8 million. We have prepaid expenses of $252,000 as well as inventory of $22,000, resulting in non-financial assets of $19 million, resulting in an accumulated surplus of $20,866,000. If we go to page 2, which is your statement of operations and accumulated surplus, this statement represents your revenue and expenses for the municipality between January 1st, 2022 and December 31st, 22. We have a total revenue of $9,446,847, comprised of net taxation of $5.2 million, government transfers of $2,227,000, user charges $1,329,000, and other of $621,000. Total expenses amount to $9,318,869, of which they're broken down between general government at $1.8 million, protection services $1.5 million, transportation $2.5 million, environmental services $1,168,000, health services $941,000, social and family services of $436,000, recreation, cultural services $807,000, and planning and development $109,000. This gives us an excess of revenue over expenses of $128,000. We have other government transfers related to capital of $74,000, resulting in an excess of revenue over expenses, so essentially a surplus of $202,095. We had started the year with an accumulated surplus of $20.6 million, ending with $20,866,104. I'm not going to necessarily go through the statement of cash flow, since this pretty much just shows how the cash is derived or how the cash changes from the beginning of the year to the end of the year based on operating capital financing activities. On page 4, you have the statement of changes in net financial assets. So that just gives the breakdown how that statement went from 2.8 million to 1.79, that specific number. And it is a function of your surplus and your tangible capital assets, inventory, and prepaids. The rest of the financial statement is made up of all the notes that are tied, that provide additional information with regards to these key financial statements. Without going through them, there's not a lot of changes that occurred in these notes compared to last year. Everything was pretty much the same information. So I'm not sure if there's more detail you would like me to present with regards to the financial statements.
Does anybody have any questions for Roxanne? No, seeing none. No question.
Perfect. And I'm sure the information was very similar to what you've been receiving with regards to your reports. So there is some, so that's pretty much it then with regards to the financial statement. As part of our audit, there is a few other items that I need to do with regards to just some discussion with those charged with governance, which in this is council members. So it was just to go through quickly before I go through the benchmarking. Just to give an update of how the audit did proceed and just to highlight some key items that we need to discuss. So as part of our procedures, we do have to highlight the fact that in the engagement letter that I believe I've provided a copy to the treasurer, there is responsibilities that are tied to what we have to do. There's responsibilities to those charged with governance, and all of that, those items are indicated in the engagement letter. I did want to indicate that for our audit approach, we did a combined approach between tests of controls as well as a substantive approach. So we did test controls with regards to all of the different streams, as well as do some substantive tests where we go to supporting documentation for certain elements of the assets, liabilities, revenue, and expenses. We didn't identify any significant audit risk, so it is something that I have to disclose. No new accounting policies were adopted during the year. Some of the key estimates, which are in the notes of the financial statements, include the useful life of the tangible capital asset and the amortization, allowance for doubtful accounts with regards to the taxes receivable, as well as the estimate when it comes to the landfill closure and post-closure liability. Materiality that was used to do the audit was based on the total expenses at a factor of 3%, giving us materiality of 279,000 is the base that we use to drive all the work that we ended up doing throughout the audit. There was no material misstatements of unadjusted items. So essentially, we didn't find any discrepancies between our numbers and what was provided to us with regards from the treasurer. So there's nothing there to report. We are confirming that we are independent of the municipality as from a Baker Tilly's perspective. All related party transactions were disclosed within the financial statement. There's no significant unusual transactions that we noted through doing our audit. There was no disagreements with management, and all of the information was provided. We've received the letter of representation, so essentially signed by the CAO as well as the treasurer to let us know that all information that was requested was provided to us. We didn't find any deficiencies within the internal control, so the management letter that we will providing will indicate as such that there's no deficiencies to report. And we are confirming that we have not come across any instances of illegal act, fraud, intentional misstatements, or errors, and no instances of non-compliance of laws and regulations were identified during our audit. So that's pretty much the key items that I just need to go through from a housekeeping perspective on my, that I need to do to be able to document my files. So just one question before I get into the benchmarking. From a subsequent event standpoint, is there anything between April when we started to do the audit and today that would have an impact on these financial statements? Any transactions, anything? No? Okay, perfect. And I did indicate that we did not come across any instances of fraud, illegal act, intentional misstatements and stuff, but I do have to ask the question to council if you're aware of anything that we should be made aware of. Nothing? Okay. Perfect. So if we can go to the benchmarking. So again, we do put a disclaimer with regards to the information that we provide in this package, because all of the information is derived from the financial information return that you can find on every municipality in Ontario on the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing site. So we do accumulate that information and then compare the municipality of French River to neighboring municipalities or those that we feel are more in comparison to French River than not. So we've put together about 6-7 ratios just to show where French River situates itself compared to other municipalities on certain key ratios. So if I look at the tax arrears ratio, so essentially the tax arrears ratio is taking the total taxes receivable less the allowance we would have taken over taxes levied. And if you see here, what the ministry considers as low as if the ratio is less than 10%. And for the 21 and 22, we see that French River has actually been into the low range, which is where we want it to be. And I think in 21 and 22, or especially 21, when you see the drop from 20 to 21, I think there was more efforts on collection, et cetera. So it really made a difference to bring this number down and to actually be in the low risk range from a ministry perspective. So it shows, and when we see where French River is, which is the fourth bar on the right, we see that you're pretty much comparable to some of your close municipalities that are nearby. We go to the next ratio that we presented. It's net financial assets as a percentage of revenue. So that's taking the net financial asset number that you see within the financial statements over own sources of revenue. So taxation, user charges, et cetera. So when we see here, the percentage that we need to come up with has to be less than a minus 50% would be considered a low risk. And in your case here, you're actually at a positive 20, almost 25%. So it really shows that the municipality is into a low risk when it comes to their net financial assets. So it shows a good financial position, as well as being able to weather if there's other surprises, capital additions, especially on the tangible capital asset, that you're into a position that you'd be able to sustain any of those types of expenses. And when we look in again on the right side, we are into a good position here compared to other municipalities. And also, one thing I should have noted, the information that you see on the right when we compare to the municipalities, it is from the 21 information, not 22, because it's not yet available. The next ratio that we looked at is the reserves ratio. So taking the reserve that the municipality has compared to operating expenses, just to see where we fall. From a ministry perspective, as long as we're greater than 20%, we're actually in a low risk position, and the municipality is actually in the current year at 60% reserve over the total operating costs. So you are into a good position, and you can actually withstand at this point any unexpected contingency, because you've got that leeway with, especially with your reserves. And when we compare the municipalities from last year, I think a lot of them are pretty much in that same ballpark of being in the low risk area. If we go to the next one, which is the cash ratio, so that's taking your cash over your current liabilities. So do we have the cash to be able to pay out our liabilities if we had to? This is not an area of concern if we see, as long as we were greater than 10%, and when we look at our cash over our current liabilities, we're actually sitting at around 482%. So we are into a good position when it comes to that, to have the cash to pay off our liability and not being into a concerned area. And when we look at the comparative municipalities, French River is actually one of the low ones, even though it's a low risk at this point. So next one is the debt servicing ratio. So do we have, so this is taking our payments on debt compared to our total revenue. So does our total revenue, what's the percentage of our debt when we look at our revenue? So there's no new debt that was incurred in the municipality in 22. And it can, and because of the fact that our debt keeps coming down with no new debt, we see that the percentage is pretty much staying even. If we look at the bars on the left, we're staying pretty even at this point. And actually it's been coming down throughout the years. And we are in a low risk perspective when it comes to the ministry. The next one, and which I believe is, so the next one is the asset consumption rate. So this ratio, so this is looking at your closing accumulated amortization balance compared to our cost of our tangible capital assets. So that kind of helps see the perspective of our total cost of our asset, how much is already amortized. So then it kind of helps to see how old the tangible capital assets are getting. So at this rate, we're into the moderate section of the ministry risk. To be considered lower, we have to be at less than 50%, and we're sitting at 54%. So we're just slightly in the low range of the moderate. So this just indicates, like I said, that assets are starting to get older, which indicates that at some point, I think through your asset management plan, you are probably even seeing that some of these assets will start needing to be replaced. And if the indication of what was outside when I walked in with these fire trucks, it shows that you've already started to do that process. So, and last one is just looking at the operating surplus ratio. So this takes our annual surplus over our own source of revenue. So how much of our revenues that ends up pretty much in the bottom line? So as long as we're greater than a minus 1%, we're actually in a low risk position. And in this current year, we're sitting at 2.81%. So we're into a positive position, which is where you want to go. So it just shows that our own revenue sources cover a lot of the expenses, the operating expenses that we have. So which is a healthy position that you want to be in at this point. So that's pretty much it for me. Is there any questions with regards? I know I went through things quickly, but I don't think it was a surprise with regards to the numbers or even the ratios that you would have seen. So is there any questions?
Mayor Pejol.
Thank you, Roxanne. This is a good news story, which
Yes.
as council, I'm sure all of us like to hear. But kudos go to our Treasury Department, our Treasury Treasurer, and of course our CAO and all the managers that make it happen for us. So it's a very positive report.
Definitely. And from our perspective, it's a great team to work with.
Oh,
It's a really good
we
team to
know.
work with.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions or comments? Okay, I guess, are we doing, we have a motion, so I need a mover and a seconder. Counselor Dave and Counselor Roger.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be resolved that council approves the audited financial statements prepared by Baker Tilly Chartered Accountants for the year ending December 31st, 2022.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. Roxanne,
Thank
thanks
you.
for
And
coming out.
oh, you're welcome. And it's nice to be back in person. I have to say that. So thank you. Have a great evening, everybody.
You too, thank you. So we'll continue on to reports and items for consideration. We have 6.1, general government. We have a resolution to receive the Integrity Commissioner Services 2022 annual report. I believe we need a mover and a seconder. Need Counselor Wilk and Counselor Bob.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be it resolved that council receives the 2022 Integrity Commissioner Services Annual Report dated May 3rd, 2023.
Does anybody have any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? 6.2 finances, we don't have a report, but I think we just got a good report given to us, so we'll take that. 6.3 Public Works and Environmental Services. 6.3.1 a resolution to award the purchase of the new 3/4 ton truck for the Public Works Department. And I believe Mark, the treasurer, is going to speak on behalf of this.
Thank you. The request for this is a repost, so we posted twice. We posted the first time on March 29th for tenders and we received no bids. So we reposted in April and we received one bid for 92,242 and 57 cents plus tax. Our budget was $70,000, so it's over budget. But if you look overall for Public Works, last meeting, we had the tandem, it was a budget for 400,000 and we, the tender came in at 338. So a little bit over budget here, but less under budget for the tandem truck. So this is the results. So
Does anybody have any questions, or Counselor Dean?
Anybody like to comment on why the big difference between what we budgeted and what we're having to pay?
Availability.
That's it, is it?
That's it. The 3/4 ton diesel trucks are very hard to come by. And that's technically the price. Any commercial. And any commercial, yeah, exactly. So
Thank you.
Counselor Will?
And the truck is, how's it equipped? Standard equipped? Any special equipment?
it comes equipped, but I think we have to put our plow on it, or I believe.
it comes pre-equipped with all the lights, the safety railings, and also the lift at the back. The only thing is we'll take the plow from our existing truck to put on the new truck, but it's all prepped for the plow. Sorry.
Thank you.
Williams, Councilor Williams.
Counselor Bob?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe it's in the report or quote, and I just missed it. Do we have a delivery date?
For some reason, I'm thinking December. No, that was the tandem truck. I'm sorry.
I think delivery is to be determined.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Seeing none. Okay, so I need a mover and a seconder. Counselor Bob. Counselor Dave.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be resolved that council awards the purchase of one new 3/4 ton crew cab diesel short box truck to Savage Ford for the amount of $92,242.57 plus applicable taxes.
All in favor? 6.3.2 recycling services agreements with GFL Environmental. We have a resolution to adopt a bylaw to authorize the recycling acceptance and hauling services agreement. And then we'll have a resolution to adopt a bylaw to authorize the curbside recycling collection services agreement. So I believe Kevin is here and will speak on the reports.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I'll give a bit of a background for anybody here listening who doesn't know. GFL Environmental, formerly known as R&D Recycling, has providing the municipality recycling services since 2017. The contract agreement for hauling and processing our recyclable material from the Nuevo landfill was extended in 2020 for another 3-year term, which expires in June of 2023. But in 2022, the municipality entered into an agreement with GFL for the curbside recycling pilot program, which is a 2-year agreement from 2022 to 2024, which currently services 880 households within the municipality. The provincial government is implementing a province-wide transition for the Blue Box program, which will entail full financial accountability to the producers of recyclable materials. The municipality's transition date to the full producer responsibility is April of 2025. In December 2022, council directed staff to extend the pilot recycling curbside collection program and implement full curbside recycling collection to all the households within the municipality, which totals an approximate 2,230 properties. Both agreements have been updated with cost and expiry to align with our provincial Blue Box transition date. And you'll see in both of our attachments for budget, financial considerations for both agreements were approved in the 2023 operating budgets. In conclusion, it's recommended to council to authorize the following service agreements with GFL Environmental for our recycling, hauling from the landfill site and the new curbside program. I would just like to point out the highlights because everybody likes to see the money here. The hauling from the landfill site has went up pretty significantly. It's from 347 a run to 562 plus a 25% surcharge. But the good thing is with going curbside recycling, we're not going to have these fees. Like we'll go probably from 4 40-yard bins a week to down to 1, we're hoping. So that's not really going to affect anything really. And our contamination rate has went up from $82 to $100. But again, full curbside program. Right now we're running at about a 5% contamination rate, which they call 0. So it shouldn't really affect too much for the prices. So thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Does anybody have any questions for Kevin? Okay, Mayor Peugeot.
I just want to make clear that when they pick up at the landfill, they don't bring the curbside stuff, goes directly to North Bay. It does make a stop to the landfill, right?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's correct. It goes directly from the truck to the facility, so they won't be stopping there.
And there's no contamination on that truck that they've seen, or 5%?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, it's been 0. What they've been putting down is 0, but.
So that's a plus. At least it's not getting shipped back, right? And we're not paying for the cost for it to come back to our landfill.
Well, it would stay there. It's just we get a fee on it. So.
We'll get a fee on it. Okay, I guess a mover and a seconder. So Counselor Bob and Counselor Dave.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be resolved that bylaw 2023-29, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with GFL Environmental Inc. for the provision of recycling acceptance and hauling services be read first, second, and third time and finally passed.
All in favor? Okay,
And then, so
the next resolution. Okay, a mover and a seconder for the other resolution, Counselor Dave and Counselor Will.
it is duly moved and seconded. Be resolved that bylaw 2023-30, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with GFL Environmental Inc. for the provision of curbside recycling collection services be read first, second, and third time and finally passed.
All in favor? Okay, good. So now we have 6.3.3, the Chair's Report, Environmental Advisory Committee. Is there one more? Yep. Okay, so we have the Chair's Report from the Environmental Advisory Committee, and that is Bob.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had our committee meeting May 4th, if memory serves me right. We received a report from Aqua, Ontario Clean Water, regarding the lagoon capacity. And I'm just going to read our minutes concerning this. So Ontario Clean Water Agency presented the lagoon capacity study as well as some best practices for sludge removal and maintenance that could be potentially utilized to further increase capacity. Aqua provided clarity to committee members on technical questions pertaining to water sludge testing, daily volumes, monthly average intakes, and measurements of lagoon lifespan. Committee members generally agreed that more information would be needed to be collected, analyzed, and reported on before committee members could suggest next step or remedial recommendations to council. Basically, what I received from the report is that we're going to have to spend major dollars in the future to clean our lagoon. There's new technology out there, new chemicals, and Aqua and staff will analyze probably these reports from Aqua to better inform us of and to make a proper decision. At this time, I'm going to ask Kevin, our manager of environmental, and maybe our CAO, Mark, if they have anything to add to to inform us from the Aqua report.
Thank you, Mayor, Mr. Chair. A very good update. That's pretty well right on point. So just a little bit of technical information. You know, we're trying to get ahead of the game here in terms of the operations of our lagoons and the capacities. Knowing the potential housing development that has triggered within our community with certain projects, we undertook Aqua to do an assessment of our lagoons and the sludge levels, which I think they completed a sonar and sludge depth analysis last week. So we're awaiting that information for to go forward with some recommendations. But not to hide the fact that the lagoons were constructed in 1977 or 78, if I'm not mistaken. To our knowledge, there hasn't been a major cleanup of the sludge in those lagoons since their inception. So we're waiting to see in terms of the costs associated with doing that, because we want to ensure capacity for future developments. Currently, legislation states that if you reach 80% capacity of your lagoons, then you have to embark on a solution to increase the capacity in terms of new infrastructure or expanded infrastructure. We're hoping not to get to that point. That's why we're early in the game. The other recommendation that has come from Aqua is to maybe hire a consultant to develop a study in terms of re-rating our lagoons to be able to discharge every 180 days rather than 300 days. That would double our capacity and meet our needs for a long time to come. So high level, without the technical details, Mr. Chair, that's some of the information and some of the data that'll come back to your committee for discussions and moving forward. I'm not going to hide the fact these are significant costs in terms of hiring an engineer to ask the administrative revisor lagoons and or for the dredging. And the committee is looking at every potential alternative technology out there to be able to keep the costs associated to the lagoon operations at a very efficient manner. I also want to advise and remind council and the users of the system that we still have on the books the linear system, which is basically the lines that bring all the septic to the lagoons. We have a project on the books that was priced at $5 million back in 2017 that we're still trying to get funding for. I'm sure that price with now has significantly increased. So there's some major upgrades coming and challenges in our septic system and waste management system at this point. But again, we're trying to be proactive and ahead of the game to make sure that we're ready to make those changes as required. Mr. Chair or Kevin, anything to add?
Thank you, Mark. Basically, I think I summed up everything you said when I said there'll be major dollars to be spent and major decisions to be taken. Thank you, Mark.
Councillor Dave has a question, I believe, Bonk, or a comment.
Not a question, but a comment. Thank you through me, Madam Chair. I think one of the big thing we were waiting to on the environmental committee to advise was or to make a recommendation to council was the sonar was done as I think was done, but we didn't have the results yet. And that's what we're waiting for before we could advise council to do something. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Day, for that point. Oh, I just lost my screen. God. Also in our meeting, we had a Earth Day follow-up. We just discussed generally what went on. And it was brought forward and that different ideas were just thrown out for next year so we could document and go back to for next year. We had through our roundtable discussion, where we talked about the recycling and this and that some people were complaining that the recycling bins and the wind was pushing their stuff out. Through committee members, I can inform council that our local hardware store is now carrying for sale a hard cover for our bins or a mesh cover. So there's something available out there if people want to take care of their recycling, if I can put it that way. So there is something out there. We also registered through committee members and I had a discussion with him today, and he told me he had discussed it with you, Kevin, about we're registered with Earth Day Canada to plant 50 trees a month. Our first initiative will be happening on June 22nd. We will be planting 50 cedar trees in the municipality. It hasn't been decided where or at what time, but we will keep you informed. For our first month of this venture, it would be nice to photo op like we just did tonight with our new equipment, fire equipment. So I will be keeping you informed of this. And that ends my report, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Dean has a question for you, Bob.
I don't really have so much a question for Bob as a comment I'd like to make concerning this curbside recycling and our big advances we're making here very shortly. And I recall that when we did the pilot project, we put some written information out to people who were going to be affected directly as to what was expected of them and what their responsibility was going to be, what the municipality's responsibility was, and how the system was going to work. And I kind of think that we should be considering that kind of information again to the people who are now adding to the list. And I'm not sure just what the best way is of going about doing that, whether we should do it with a direct letter to everybody or Kevin, you have some comments to make on that?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we will be sending a notice to every person within the municipality. I believe next week, now that we're gonna have a hard date on when this starts. We were kind of waiting for the dates. So we could put them in the contract and we know what day this will start. So we'll have all the information for recycling as before. Everybody's gonna get.
Thank you, Kevin. That's
Counselor Bob?
And if I may, Madam Chair, I also believe, I think we had quite a bit of information sent out with our tax bills. And I know quite a few people spoke to me about it, and some it was a surprise that, oh, you're going to be picking up recycling, and others would, oh, I've been hearing about it, and I'm anxious to see when it's going. So it's getting some weren't happy, some weren't happy that the lease lost.
Counselor Roger, do you have a comment?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Kevin, I had an inquiry about recycling. I think you're probably aware of it from the Ranger Bay Trailer Park on Turenne Road. The new owners by name of Boyven. I had a request or a call, let's say about 2 weeks ago, wanting to know what happens to the trailer park, the recycling from that trailer park, apparently at the end of their contract. If are they on contract with the municipality?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. We have currently 15 commercial establishments that have bins, and some of them only have garbage, some of them have recycling. So as per council's decision, that we are ending services for all these commercial establishments. So they're gonna have to either haul it themselves to the landfill site or use a third party contractor to do so.
Okay, yeah, because I wasn't aware, well, I was aware yesterday it was ending at the end of the year. And they just wanted to know, of being new owners, what was going on. So they will have to hire a third party contractor to take the recycling and, well, eventually their garbage out also, I guess.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, that's correct. They're all gonna get their notices with their contract next week, which is we just finished today. So everybody's gonna know that is in an agreement with us. So
All right,
they'll
thank
be
you.
kept to speed. It's in October. We put it just after the long weekend, so every camp could get through their busy season and we're not gonna affect them. So they have time to sort it out.
All right, thank you, Kevin.
So I have a question, Kevin. Do you think that our current recycling pickup person company would consider picking up at lodges if they paid them to pick it up? You know what I mean? Do you think that's maybe something we could reach out to them and ask if they're going down that road anyways? Would they stop and pick up recycling if they made an arrangement with that company?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we have been in talks with GFL. They're looking at getting a front end loader truck, so that, but they still don't have that piece. But I think they're waiting to see how heavy the load is from the municipality before they start taking on businesses. So they make sure that they can get the whole community first, right?
But- Okay.
So, and depending on the size of the business and how much recycling they would have, then they'd have to work out between GFL, not with us, because they're They're the contractor.
Yeah. It's just, considering some of these lodges have, 40, 50 trailers, I'm not sure, but if they're encouraging recycling, I mean, to get it to the landfill, right? So, and if, maybe just keep us posted down the road, maybe give options, I don't know. Maybe we can reach out to Just in Time to do, maybe he'd add that to his services or somebody would. Go ahead, Mayor Pejot.
I think that's up to them, the companies, to do that on their own. I think we get into sliding road if we start promoting a certain company over another company. Yeah,
I'm not saying promoting them, I'm just
Yeah.
saying it would be nice if, that a service in that would be able to, somebody could provide that service to local campgrounds, because we have many that are only seasonal, so.
yeah, but they'll have access
Yeah.
to those services.
Counselor Dave?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I think one of the biggest problem, if you start giving options and if you miss one and that contractor could, you can't do any favors. They gotta, all the information's out there. It's not hard to Google a company that'll do that, and it's on the commercial establishment's responsibility to do that.
All right, thank you. Is that good, Bob? You're all done your report?
And yes, Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Okay, the next report, I believe, is Recreation and Community Advisory Committee. So we had a meeting on March 8th and we had a meeting last Wednesday. At our meeting, we had some new members, so we went through some of the discussions of some of the projects that were done throughout the last 4 years in the community. And we also we talked about continuing on with the beautification project with the flowers in town and in Albin. We talked about ways of including volunteers and how to make it more accessible for them to help us out, to help the volunteers with that. We talked about Canada Day celebrations, which will be held in Albin. So that is pretty much all settled and in place. The posters have gone out this week. So the firemen have confirmed the dunk tank. And I believe we have a sound guy and just missing some local entertainment. So that is to come. We talked about the concert series in the park. There was an expression of interest that was talked about. We did go through it. There were things to be changed that, we discussed that could work or could potentially not work, and that it would come back to committee with recommendations and to see how we would move along with that. We talked about different ideas about festivals and stuff, medieval times and Christmas theme, maybe do a Christmas in July and stuff like that. I think for this year, we're pretty short timed. So we will be looking at stuff like that, maybe bringing back the outdoor winter carnival was a good suggestion, which would give us more time because it's in the, it's still quite a few months away. So that was a good one. They talked about having activities for mid-teens because there's a lot of stuff for the younger children. And so that we discussed maybe involving the library with those projects. We also talked about the food bank a little bit, talked about many projects. That's basically it. I don't know if Roger has anything to add. You were at the meeting. So was Giselle.
Well, I can always talk about the food bank.
Go ahead. It's time to do it. It's recreation and committee.
Okay. Since, I got involved with it 2.5 years ago. I believe when we had 30 families, or we were serving 30 families. The last month or the month before, we're closing in on 100 families, anywhere from 250 to 300 people. So our increase and by numbers, and also the inflation cost of the food. gave us some problems a few months back. Luckily, DSAP came through and gave us some extra money. We're working hard trying to change our supplies a little bit or supply more food. I made arrangements with the Sudbury Food Bank to pick up vegetables, meat, fruit, bread, and which I did today. And that will be pretty well ongoing on a weekly basis now to stock up and so we can serve the people better. As long as our numbers don't grow anymore or much more, I don't think we could handle it at this time. Unless we get another building. Because now that this building and trying to serve that amount of people, we're pretty well bursting at the seams with trying to get organized and getting the food out, in and out. So yes, that's all I have to say for today, but I'll have more next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Roger. Anybody else? Mayor Pajot?
I just want to let people know that the current building we're in, it was month to month, to say the least, because of the dentist owns it and that she has plans. But I was told that she is in absolutely no rush. And she continues to let the food bank use the building free of charge. Plus she donates as well. So I think that says a lot about her.
We're very lucky to have.
One thing I forgot to add, right at this moment, I have a crew of 4 at the food bank sorting out vegetables. Because some of the vegetables we get are basically given to us by stores like Costco, Walmart, and Independent. And so some of them aren't in the best of shape. So we sorted out fruit and make new packages, and we will be giving it out tomorrow. All right, good, thank you.
It's really nice of all the volunteers and the people that donate and help out. So thank you guys very much for that. We'll continue on to 6.5, Emergency and Protection Services, 6.5.1. We have a resolution to authorize an animal control service agreement with the municipality of St. Charles. Kevin?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. A bit of a background for everybody here is this is new. The municipality of St. Charles has approached the municipality of French River's bylaw department for animal control services agreement. And we have drafted an agreement for council's review. The 2 municipalities have been participating in shared services agreement for bylaws and buildings since 2017. But the services never included animal control enforcement. This agreement would be considered separate from any other agreement between the 2 municipalities, including building and bylaw service in our agreed upon Sudbury East Building and Bylaw Services Agreement from French River, Killarney, and St. Charles. The municipal law enforcement officers in French River have acted as a backup enforcement agency over the last few months for St. Charles Animal Control. Since the officers are already municipal law enforcement officers in the area, the service was provided with no issues. French River officers are familiar with the area, already have GIS mapping, information layers, and we have the equipment to offer the service to them. St. Charles is now taking steps to pass their responsible animal ownership, which pretty much mirrors ours. So it'll be hopefully seamless throughout the municipality. The municipality of St. Charles is proposing that this agreement be reviewed in 2024 before it expires to ensure that both parties are happy with the ability to provide the service and the service levels received. Based upon the acceptance of this agreement, the municipality of St. Charles would like the service to start in June of 2023. For budget, French River Treasury has proposed a costing of $46.38 per hour based on the hourly rate for a bylaw officer and a 15% admin charge. And mileage will be charged at 90% of the CRA rate which will be tracked by the officers and be billed on a quarterly basis to St. Charles. Staff recommends the council accepts the terms of the agreement and presented to agree the extended animal control service to the municipality of St. Charles for a 1-year trial.
Anybody have any questions for Kevin? Mayor Pajot.
So Kevin, now when you do your quarterly reports, is there a way you can show us how many calls that bylaw has gone to service St. Charles? And the reason I'm asking is because we're about to embark in enforcing the trailer bylaw and the short-term bylaw, which is going to require a lot of work from our bylaw officers. And I want to make sure that that we're not overburdening you by accepting a contract from St. Charles. So if we have numbers, that would be terrific.
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe now that we're kind of expanding, I think I'm just going to be doing all the bylaw reporting for SEBs. So I think it's just going to be one across the board for each municipality and make things a little bit easier.
Okay, so we'll get to see
Where
if
all
you're
our
doing
time-
animal.
We'll see where all our time is spent that way.
Perfect,
And track it.
perfect. Thank you.
Counselor Will.
Through you, Madam Chair. I'm curious, just for personal curiosity, how do we transport the animals? I know that we moved them to North Bay, but do we have a special vehicle that we transport?
Through you, Madam Chair. To answer your question, we have cages and that's why we have those pickups with the caps on them. We have 2 of them. So we have the catch bowls and the cages and we transport to North Bay Humane Society for the French River, and St. Charles has their own agreement. So it's not stepping onto ours. So that way, whenever a dog goes from there, they're tracked under their contract, not our contract. So.
Sorry, one more question, and I may have brought this up before. If a dog is taken into custody, is there an effort made to find the local owner before the animal is transported? And if so, how are those efforts put into effect?
Through you, Madam Chair. So on our mapping, any person who buys a tag, we have a layer on there that we could see. Say I pick up a dog in Noelville, I can scan over to see the description of the dog. And it will tell me kind of where it belongs. If there is no tag and it doesn't have to be wearing the tag, but if it's a black lab, I can check Noelville for a black lab. And then you just kind of scan over the area. And if there's nothing that meets that description, it goes to North Bay. If not, and they do have a license, we go knock on the door of the people that do own those animals.
I know the dogs are getting chipped now. Would that be an asset to find the owner? Would that information be on the chip? Or would that facilitate in you finding the owner?
Through you, Madam Chair, for what we have researched, there's about 3 different companies that have these softwares for chips. And it depends if you have the right software for the chip that was put in that dog. It's not a universal thing. So if it goes to the pound and they don't have the right reader that dog has in, the best bet is tattoos. Then it's there for life.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else have any questions for Kevin? Okay, seeing none, I believe we have resolution, so I need a mover and a seconder. Counselor Dave and Counselor Will.
Duly moved and seconded, but resolved that bylaw 2023-32 being a bylaw to enter into an animal control service agreement with the municipality of St. Charles be read at first, second, and third time.
All in favor? Okay, pass. Kevin again, 6.5.2, a resolution to adopt a power of entry bylaw.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Again, a bit of background on this new bylaw. Power of entry bylaw will allow enforcement officers to enter on land at any reasonable time for the purpose of carrying out an inspection to determine if a municipal bylaw is being complied with for all the municipal bylaws. Many of our bylaws already provide all the officers' authority on land, including our clean yards bylaw, property standards bylaw, burning bylaws, etc. Those just fall under are the building code, so gives us access. The proposed power of entry bylaw is intended to update certain new bylaws that address exterior health and safety matters such as the fence bylaw, noise bylaw, responsible animal ownership bylaw, among others. The power of entry does not give the municipality the right to enter a dwelling unit without the owner's consent or a warrant. There will be no noticeable change to the current practice regarding property inspections by officers. This bylaw will simply provide officers with the ability to deal with issues of health and safety on properties in a timely manner. If a situation requires it, for example, should there be a complaint regarding an animal cruelty matter, the officer would attempt to reach the owner or occupant to rectify the situation, and if not successful, this bylaw would allow the officer to enter on the property to inspect the complaint or issue and take appropriate actions. It's recommended the council review and pass the bylaw as presented.
Anybody have any questions for Kevin? Counselor Will?
Through you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious, so this power of entry, there's going to be documentation in place or a reason to access property prior to going out. So there will be something on file. Or there will be a cause for a property to be accessed.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Right now, through like, let's say, clean yard issues, property standards, what falls under the building code. So that means at any reasonable hour, if we see an issue or there's a complaint, we can enter the premises like of the property to inspect. Same as the fire code. This just covers us for noise. It's more or less for animal cruelty and stuff like that. So that way, if we have a complaint and a reason to be there, we can act accordingly and not have to worry.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I believe we have a resolution, so I need a mover and a seconder. Counselor Dave and Counselor Bob.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be it resolved that bylaw 2023-31, being a bylaw to regulate the power of entry onto land in the municipality of Prince River, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
All in favor? 6.6, building and planning and development. 6.6.1, we have the chair's report from the Economic Development Advisory Committee. And so that is Will.
We met for the first time, well, it's first time me chairing the meeting for March 23rd. So there was, we got to know each other. There was introductions made. We went through and took care of previous business prior to me sitting on the committee. So that was taken care of. We had Tim Doherty come in and he delivered a presentation with respects to electric charging stations, and he felt it would be a good initiative for the municipality to something to showcase. So people who are vacationing in the area or would like to would be traveling through the area in their electric vehicles that would have a place, a known place to stop and be able to charge their vehicles. There's an initiative, I believe it was Aviva was ahead of this, and they were offering, I think it was $750,000 to municipalities that met the criteria. I think they were going to hand out. There was 3 winners at the end of the day. Now, it was recognized early on that we were not going to meet the timeline for that this year, but it would be something to maybe more consider for next year. So there was a lot of interest. There was a lot of questions with respects to who would foot the bill for maintaining the cost of these things, installation, and so on. So there was a lot of questions that had to go out and be further looked into. So I think where we were with this now is we found the application process, and we're slowly moving through and discovering more information on that. So yeah, I'll leave that. It was prior me. So when we went through that and took care of prior business, we had a roundtable discussion to see where the municipality maybe want to more direct their efforts. So there was a lot of interests with respects to networking the community, keeping business within the community. So setting up more promoting what we do here, who does what, and bringing those people, getting those people connected. So for instance, it was like a place a local place to sell agriculture products by networking with local farmers and providers. And I think somebody come up with, I think it's on Facebook, there was actually a map that shows local producers and farms you can actually go visit. And that's something that we were hoping to maybe create here as well, that there would be a good visual that somebody come in the area and say, you know, maybe I'd like to buy a carrot or, you know, maybe buy some radishes, or, you know, where you can go locally to source these goods. Also, there was a discussion with respects to tourism and business promotion opportunities outside the community. So I guess that would be for the municipality to lead the charge on that, maybe speak abroad as to what our municipality has to offer to other areas coming in, seeing that we're a tourist, I guess a tourist-based municipality. And the next thing was increasing communication from the municipality that would provide information on the community calendar. So I know there's a community calendar on our website, and it would be nice if we could more use that and populate that and have bring that awareness to the community and have them become more involved with populating their events and making everyone aware of what they're doing, and then making the community aware. Go to that calendar and see what's actually happening this weekend, this week, next month. So those were pretty much the topics that we covered. If there are any questions.
No, I don't see anybody. I will say a comment though. On my way back from Perry Sound last weekend, I saw a nice big sign up on the highway. I don't know when it went up, but it looks beautiful on that side. So I don't know. Does anybody know when it went up? Like, I don't know when it went up. Oh, Bob knows when it went up.
You took my announcements away, but it went up about 3 weeks ago.
Okay, I noticed it.
I
I was
went
like,
down two days in a row, and day one it wasn't there, day two it was there.
okay. I was like, oh my God, it's up. Because we've been waiting 2 years or 3 years now, wait, 3 years for them to, even maybe 4 years ago, we had talked about it. So it was really nice to see it up. Go ahead, Mark.
Through you, Madam Chair, it's not completely finished. There's still the welcome bienvenue on knee portion of the sign to be put up. That's why I didn't announce it until it was fully finished.
Well, I noticed it right away. It was like, ow, when did this happen? And then I was like trying to figure out when the last time I drove on the highway was. And I said, no, it wasn't there the last time. So it was nice to see. It's very inviting when you're coming in off Highway 69. So does anybody else have anything to add? Okay, seeing none, we'll continue on to correspondence. 7.1, the Sudbury East Chamber of Commerce sent out their invites for the annual gala. We do have a resolution to consider a sponsorship opportunity. 2 years ago, we had donated 2,500 for the gold sponsorship. This gives us, I believe, 8 seats and some advertising and speaking at the event. I know that we did put some money aside in the budget for this. So we do have a resolution to give the same amount again this year for the event, which is 2,500. So I need a mover and a seconder, Councillor Roger and Councillor Will.
It is duly moved and seconded. Be resolved that council approves the event platinum partner sponsorship in the amount of 2,500 for the Sudbury East Chamber of Commerce AGM and Gala being held November 4th at Killarney Mountain Lodge.
All in favor? Okay, good. Now we have a resolution to approve the attendees at the event being held November 4th, 2023 in Killarney. So I believe there's 8 tickets. So So I don't personally need a ticket because I'm on the gala committee, so I will already be there. So I don't know if anybody else, and Bob's gonna be hunting,
Bob will be hunting.
hunt. So just to see who would be interested in going. Dave, Dean, Mayor Pajot, and Roger. Okay. Will and Will. So so I guess everybody but Bob for now. And so mhm. So we know that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's 8 tickets, and I know there will be rooms available. They are just working on the link to get the rooms. They do reserve a block of rooms. Rooms are separate if you want to reserve a room. As soon as that comes out, it will be sent to the municipalities. Jill will inform those of the block that's open. If you have Ys in that want to attend, there will be extra tickets available for sale in the upcoming weeks. And I believe well, I'm not even gonna say what the price is because I'm not 100% sure. So you have a resolution?
Yes, so I have a resolution for Dave, Dean, Roger, Giselle, and Willie. So if there's any other members, the last event, what we had did is with the remaining tickets, if anybody wanted to bring a spouse, or if there was any staff member that wanted to go, we just tagged those persons to that table. And we're gonna reach out once the link comes out for the accommodations and reach out. I know last time a few had driven back and forth and some had stayed overnight. So we will reach out to everyone when that time comes.
Okay.
Did you have a mover and seconder?
No, I need a mover and a seconder.
Because I
Counselor
forgot.
Bob and Counselor Roger.
Okay, so for those attendees.
So we're good?
Yeah.
Okay, we have 7.2, a resolution to approve the 2023 municipal apportionment for the Sudbury East Planning Board. Does need a mover and a seconder. Counselor Will and Counselor Dave. Does anybody have any questions on this? Seeing none?
So for 57,442.
And we're good. And we have the consent agenda. So I need a mover and a seconder for the consent agenda. Counselor Dave, Counselor Dean.
Be resolved, the council approves the items of the consent agenda under section 8.1 and receives the item in section 8.2.
Okay, there is no separated items from the consent agenda. Notices of motion, there is none. Announcements and inquiries. So I guess we'll start with Roger. Okay, Counselor Bob.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We got a new sign on Highway 69.
Sorry.
Just want to remind everyone that tomorrow is the AGM of Economic Partners in Sturgeon Falls, 5 o'clock. And I wish you a beautiful summer next 2 weeks till our next meeting. Thank you.
Counselor Will.
I have nothing to add.
Okay, Mayor Pajot.
Today marked the 50th anniversary of the Wellville Seniors Club, and we had an absolutely lovely dinner. The municipality presented a certificate on behalf of all of us to congratulate them. So I thought that was great, and I hope to see another 50 years of that club. Want to remind everybody about the June 1st. It's Seniors Month, and through the VA, they're hosting a free luncheon for all seniors in the municipality of French River. And you've all been voluntold to assist in serving the seniors because we're going to be giving them their lunches. So if I can ask you to be, it starts at 10, but you don't have to be there at 10. But by 11:30, if you can all be there by 11:30, let me know if you can't, because then I'll volunteer some other dues and dudettes to come and serve the luncheon. There's going to be lots of gifts. People, of course, the community here is very, very generous, so lots of draws, and they're still looking for stuff to put in the gift bags to give to each senior, so they all leave with a gift. And the big draw that the Via Trail has been selling tickets will be drawn after all the speeches are done and lunch is done, so that we keep everybody there for the presentation. And there will be a presentation by someone from the Alzheimer's Society to talk about the challenges of caring for an Alzheimer partner. So it's going to be a great afternoon. Thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you, Mayor Pejot. Councillor Dean?
Water levels are going down nicely. I think everybody's feeling a lot better about that. But I think that also we really desperately need some rain. I don't know what the fire situation is here in our municipality. I haven't heard, but it's pretty well high now, and I think that fire burning is going to be prohibited pretty soon if it isn't already. Just a comment that everybody should be very careful. We don't want to see anything like Alberta here.
No.
Thank you.
Councillor Dave?
I'm gonna be quiet for today. Thank you.
Okay. So I guess the next time we'll see each other will be June 1st for the lunch. So we'll see you there. I believe the Ryan Guns Fish Fry is coming up at the end of the month, May 27th or something. So that's something to look forward to. Last week I attended FNUM, which was a 3-day conference in Parry Sound. And it was very interesting. I learned a lot. There was many topics talked about, many different bills coming out. So I will write a little write-up because I don't think I could go through all of it. I know they did talk about Bill 97, giving municipalities access to Crown land so that we can increase economical development in the areas. So it's probably long coming, but that's something they did talk about. Talked about Bill, the bail reform bill, Bill 15. We did get a letter to support that. FNUM is a big, did bring that motion to the provincial government. That is to save costs with the fees of the courthouses of repeat offenders. That shouldn't really be going back to jail over and over and over. Scenarios like an abusive husband who keeps getting picked up over and over and over, gets kept, he's released on bail, but then gets picked up on his 7th charge of, why not just keep him there or, put him in a place where there's actually services to take care of that before it gets out of hand. They see a lot of repeated offenders going to jail, spending one night, being out on bail. It just creates more costs on both the OPP and the court system having to go, they already have one charge, but then they end up, by the time they go to court, they have 7 charges on them, but they can only charge them 1 charge at a time. And so it's how to come up with something that's more cost efficient for everybody and makes more sense. And so that was kind of interesting, learning all the different aspects of bail reform. So we do have a resolution and a letter. If we could maybe include that in our next meeting. I know it's been on the news quite a bit. So if we could look at maybe supporting that, or if we have questions about it, that can be answered. They did talk about local infrastructure. They talked about how promoting the north is a big thing because of all the minings and the electric cars and the batteries. There's a lot of money being spent in Northern Ontario and opening up our mines. They talked a lot about hydroelectricity saying that we pretty much have to double the capacity of hydro that we are outputting in the province by, I believe it was the year 2040 to be able to, for infrastructure to be able to put up with the demand between the cars and everything else, because right now we don't have the infrastructure, and our infrastructure is very old across the province and more so in Northern Ontario. And a lot of rural places make it hard for them to get, the hydro out there. And so there's going to be a lot of money spent into hydro electricity in the future years. So if, they're looking to work with municipalities that have water, dams, or anything that, we could look to the future, because that is pretty much where the whole province is going, is with hydroelectricity. They talked about immigration models. They talk about women in politics, how it's actually a good thing. And we bring a fresh view to the politic world. And they are going to be promoting women in politics. Anyways, there's been a lot of talk about it, and they did pat us on the back there quite a bit. They talked about working in partnerships with the Indigenous peoples, how we can work with them and to try to not right some wrongs, but how do we move past or work forward together? And inclusivity was a big thing, equality, inclusivity, and that. So that was a big thing. Talked about a lot of the grants that FedNor has given out to northern communities. Doki's First Nation did receive 2.5 million for their dams there because they need a lot of work done. And there was a lot of other northern communities that were giving funding. They talked about pathways to decarbonization. So again, hydroelectricity was a big thing for that. So they talked about a lot of stuff. Basically, that's pretty much, they talked about twin highways in Northern Ontario. That was a big talk also, because there's a lot of accidents and they've been working on that for many, many years. So that was good, and talked about the cost of insurance going up and why it's been going up so much. Because of climate change impacting a lot of claims. So the more claims that go out, the higher the premiums go, because, before the rates were lower because there was less claims, less climate. There was, the climate was didn't change as much as what is changing now. We're seeing more devastating times, more storms, more wind power, more, so that, that's creating more costs that way. So yeah, so it was interesting, got to learn lots, and you guys have questions for me, I will try to answer. And tomorrow I have health unit meeting. So that's why I was asking about, if Warren had some hydro at the library, so I'm hoping. And that's all I have. And anybody else have anything to say? Go ahead.
The first thing is, I was talking to the police officer at Depo, and I asked him about the police station. He said it was on hold right now, and it's not going to close. So I wonder, is that what's happening with the police station?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, I reported that last meeting. So, yeah, so at this time, it's on a cautionary hold until such time as the OPP has had their discussions with Infrastructure Ontario to look at ways to sustain permanent detachment here. Once they've had those discussions, they're going to bring to us their list of demands, I would have to say, or regulations that we would have to meet, whether that is building a new detachment or renovating the current detachment. But I guess with the I didn't call this week at all because with the death of an OPP officer down in Bourget, I didn't think it would be appropriate to say, what about me? So, you know, and our sincere sympathies go to those families. So I'm gonna give it some time and then I'll contact the chief superintendent when I think the right time is, and then I'll report back to council. Okay,
The next thing is at the school van, but I don't think it has to do with council. It might have to do with the high school. I'm not sure where I should go. They have a big sign. They're advertising that it's there. When you come at school van on the road and you want to go to the corner, that sign is in the way. And I've had people told me it's hard for them to see the traffic coming. That time would have to be moved a little bit further in. But maybe that has to do with the high school. Right? That's what I could see.
MTO could notify them.
We'll
Or
take
else-
note and we'll look into it. On va y regarder, Denis.
They just, it's just for people that was, just representing.
Welcome. That's it. So I need a mover and a seconder. We have a resolution to adopt the confirmation bylaw. Counselor Dave and Counselor Dean.
It's duly moved and second to be resolved that bylaw 2023-33 being a bylaw to confirm the proceeding of council at a meeting held May 17th, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
All in favor? Good. And a resolution to adjourn. Counselor Will and Counselor Bob. This is a long, it's been a long one. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.